Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So if you remember in the last video we took the head off and we had a bit of an issue with the valve seats. They've all been done, the head is back on. All I've got to do is set the tappets and then we'll see if it runs. So it's Monday today, tomorrow is our rolling road day, so fingers crossed it's going to run. So it's a 4-cylinder engine, it's easy to do tappets. Pistons 1 and 4 come up together and pistons 2 and 3 come up together. So basically, if we get piston 1 rocking, so we know that piston is at the top because the exhaust valve's just shutting and the inlet's trying to open. A mirror image of that, piston 4 is on the power stroke. So both of these valves are fully shut, ready for that spark to come in. So we can adjust the tappets on that cylinder. Then all we got to do is turn it over so cylinder 4 is rocking. Then we can do the tappets on cylinder 1. It's that easy. Same on 2 and 3. 2 rocking we do 3, 3 rocking we do 2. Simple as that. So let's get these tappets adjusted, get the top back on, fingers crossed it's going to run. Also, while I remember, on Friday I lifted the engine up, dropped the sump off and checked the bottom end. There's no swarf in the oil or in the strainer. Everything looks tight, so fingers crossed it's just going to be okay. I'm not going to start stripping stuff down if it doesn't need it. Also, me and Keith, we wanted to work out the compression ratio of the engine because it seemed a bit low on the compression test. So to do this, we had to measure the stroke of the cylinder and the combustion chamber. So the main stroke is 78 millimeters long and 83 millimeters in diameter. And then the combustion chamber is 8 mil by 83 millimeters diameter. So basically, working it out, me and Keith are dumb as anything, so we had to watch a load of videos on how to do it. The combustion chamber goes into that stroke 9.75 times. So that means we've got a ratio of 9.75 to 1, which is good. 10 is very good, 11 is probably the top before you start getting detonation. So we know that the engine's good now. Let's get the tappets done, get the rocker cover back on, do a compression test, which hopefully it's going to be more than the 65 PSI it was. Then we're going to go for our final start. Right, we're here, we're ready. The moment of truth.
I've got everything crossed.
Yeah. Now I took the carbs off and I didn't tip them upside down, so they should be full of fuel still.
Yeah.
Let's give it like 4 pumps of throttle. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're on. Right. Flick it over.
Ready?
Yep.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And there we go. It's funny how there's no fuel there at all now. That's good. And funnily enough, even though those valves were lapped in, definitely lapped in, weren't they?
1000% they were lapped in. I've done it myself, he said.
1000% lapped in. All I've done is lap in the valves and we've got no fuel hammering down that inner wing anymore, and it ticks over.
It sounds sweet, mate.
Yeah, it's good.
It does sound good.
We need to do kind of a bedding in before I go on the rolling road, so I'll probably just drive it up and down the industrial estate a few times. I need to just make sure like the prop's not going to fall off and
Gearbox falls out.
Yeah, leaf spring bolts. So we're going to get it off the ramp and just give it a gentle drive down the estate.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's go. Woohoo.
Thought you were going for a gentle spin, right?
Wow. It was, well, the last bit was anyway. You've got to give it some, haven't you? Like, you know, it's bedding it in, making sure it'll be all right for tomorrow.
It sounded sweet, mate.
Yeah, it spins the wheel so easy, like.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I was thinking, the bonnet's carbon fibre.
Yes.
So when we're doing the rolling road tomorrow, he's going to have a whacking great big fan in front of the thing. So when the bonnet's up,
whip it off.
Yeah, be easier just taking it off, and then it's out of the way then.
Yeah, and then it saves getting damaged or whatever.
Yeah. Right, bonnet off then, and
Okay.
we'll get it loaded, ready for the morning.
Brill, can't wait.
Sound. So there it is, we're here. What do you reckon, Keith?
Wonderful.
So, let me put the camera on the top. There we go. What do you reckon it's going to be? So, a standard 1600 crossflows, 75 horsepower. Yeah. It's now a 1720 with a Kent cam.
Yeah.
And twin 40s. So, I'm going to aim for 120 horsepower.
I'm going to go all out around 150, mate.
150?
Yeah.
Don't think it's going to... What's that, 50, 60, 75 horsepower added? Yeah. Nah. We'll see. Let's get it done. All right. Before Dave starts, he wants to give the engine a check over. So basically, he's going through balancing the carbs and he's setting up the idle mixture. He does this by winding the mixture screw out until it starts to flood the engine so the revs will drop. Then he winds it in until it picks up. He does this on all the cylinders and then that's the fuel set on idle. Then he's got his Krypton tuning machine. He's going to check the performance of each cylinder. So this machine is amazing. It will cut one cylinder out at a time and it looks at the rev drop. So if one cylinder cuts and it drops less revs, that means it's not performing perfectly. But look at his face, he's chuffed to bits with that. He says it's perfect. Right, let's get started on the dyno. So Dave wants to check how much fuel's going through the engine at each rev range. And this is where it's ace to have a dyno. He starts by going up through the gears slowly and then puts the car in fourth gear and builds up the speed until the engine is sat at 2000 revs. You can see this gauge here shows the vehicle speed. He then turns this little knob here and that puts a brake on the dyno so it will hold the speed in that exact position. He's now free to absolutely plant that throttle and check how much fuel is going into the engine at 2000 revs. So this little meter here is the main thing he's keeping an eye on. It's the fuel ratio meter and it's connected to a lambda probe that's in the exhaust of the Escort. 1.00 is a perfect fuel mixture for cruising, but we're on full acceleration. It needs to be a lot more fuel in it. So 0.8 or 0.9 is what it needs to be. If it goes into the ones, it's way too weak on fuel. So at 2000 revs, it's fine. At 3000 revs, it's okay too. It's 0.8 going into 0.9, but then he gets to 4000 revs and it goes over 1. He shuts it off immediately because if it goes too weak, it's going to damage the engine.
Pretty good? 2 liters more back.
Now, even though the fuel explodes inside the engine, it also acts as a coolant. If there's not enough fuel, the piston, the combustion chamber overheats, and that's when you get detonation. Fuel basically burning at the incorrect time. So looking at the jets, Dave said the original ones in the carbs were for a standard 1600, and that's why it wasn't putting enough fuel in. The early test showed it was only 68 horsepower. That's right, 68 brake horsepower at 4,000 revs, which is a lot less than even a standard 1600 is. So he took out the 105 jets and put larger 120 jets in, and also changed the original 30mm chokes to 33s, letting more air in to match the much bigger jets. So once that was all done, he did a couple more runs to make sure there's enough fuel going in, and it was perfect. So the next stage for Dave is running that engine in. So he asked me, is it new? And I said, yeah, new pistons, it's been bored out. So he said he's got to bed in the piston rings, which I didn't realize you had to do. So basically he puts it in fourth, and he goes from 20 mile an hour all the way up to sometimes 90 mile an hour, accelerating, letting off, accelerating, letting off. And what this does is when he accelerates, the piston rings spread and grip the bores and go up, and then when he lets off, they shrink back in and come back down. And apparently this is the best way to do it. So for the next hour, he was doing this, running the engine in, worrying time, because if it's gonna go bang or overheat, this is the time it's gonna do it. I did try recording a voiceover at the time, and this is how it went, and you can hardly hear what I'm saying.
So he's gonna be doing this already. He's checked the time in, he's checked the fuel in, so it was 2 weeks over 4,000.
So yeah, went on for an hour, it's all bedded in, we got enough fuel going in, it's time to do the first power run. Jesus, that was loud. Okay, that's the first power run. Let's have a look at the chart. So you can see here the white graph going up is the wheel horsepower. So that's the power at the wheels on the rollers. Then when he lets off at the top, you can see that little red shaded area. That's the drag through the gearbox and the diff being worked out. So it gives us our horsepower at the flywheel, which is 115, which is pretty rubbish, to be honest. Now looking at the graph, it starts off going up really nice, but then it gets to 3,000 and it flats off. You get an actual dip, then it rises again. So the jets in the carb, we know that idle jets do 0 to 3,000 revs, and the main jets do 3,000 revs to the maximum revs. So we got a problem still with the main jets. They're too weak, we need bigger ones. So Dave changes the main jets to 130s now and has a play with the timing. He's just advancing it slightly to see if he can get a lot more power top end. So we're ready for our second power run. Wow, what a difference 130 jets made on that power curve. It just kept climbing until it flattened off at about 5,500, 6,000 revs. So some idiot put E10 fuel in it, which is 95 octane, which was, yeah, me. Should have been super or even octane booster in there. We did loads more runs after, trying to adjust the timing, but we just had loads of detonation and pinking. Dave absolutely hates the new E10 fuel. It just needs nice super in there to get more power. So this is not the end of our power runs. We need more power out this car. So we'll definitely be back to see Dave with the Escort. And that's it for this video. I just want to say a big thank you to Dave at MEC Motorsport. We had a good day, didn't we?
Yeah, it's fantastic. My first one, and it was brilliant.
Don't think Keith realised how loud it gets, does it?
No,
it's
definitely not.
Even with the earphones on, you know, the earmuffs on,
Yeah.
It's mega loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair play to Dave. He went through, changed the jets, the chokes, fuel lines, put better ones on. And we had a full day there rolling road in, 400 quid.
Yeah, he was so methodical, wasn't he? He went through everything.
Oh yeah, he wanted to make sure it was good.
Yeah.
And all the running in, I mean, that was an hour of his time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was brilliant. So going forwards with this, Dave thinks the compression ratio is still a little bit too low. We need to get it 11:1 or 12:1 to start getting some real power out of this engine. So he thinks a piston change, instead of flat tops just having valve pockets in the pistons, should get it up to about sort of 160 horsepower, which is
That's good for that little engine.
more than enough for this little car. Well, light car, it's not
Yeah.
that little. So yeah, it's probably not the last you've seen of this Escort. I might do more bits to it and see if we can get more power. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes.
Yeah, and all the comments. Absolutely love them.
And yeah, just keep subscribing. It's free to do and it helps us out loads. So from me, I shall say see you again, and from Keith,
See you on the next one.
ta-da.
Ta-da.